This conference will now be recorded.
Now it's fun. So, hey, welcome to the future of real estate. And I'm Darryl Baskin. If you don't know who I am, maybe it's the first time you're catching one of my programs. I used to do radio. I was the voice of voice of real estate for 25 years on KRMG, um, Tulsa's news talk station. And before that, I did television. I was the youngest realtor in Tulsa for a while back when in order to sell real estate, I think the rule was you had to be over 50. Now I'm over 50, but I was 18 years old and got into real estate a little before that, helping my dad. So just when I talk about all these stories and this wonderful life of real estate that I've lived, it's exciting to share it and also to give the perspective that things have changed over the years. Well, today um, I now teach family law practitioners, attorneys, about family law and real estate, how those go together, because they kind of have to be experts at everything. And when they're in the middle of a case, they have to know how to argue the case for their client. And of course, real estate is its own animal. My job is to protect the equity for my clients. And guess what? My clients can't get along because they're in a lawsuit suing each other to get divorced. So
Yeah.
it can be the craziest dynamic. And when I started in real estate, like my early 20s, I started to do a whole lot of business. I was the top agent with my company many years. Um, and I look back at those now. This is the story I tell attorneys. I look back at those years now and my early divorce cases. And by the way, I was a really good agent. I mean, I knew a lot of stuff even at a young age. But I, um, I look at the mistakes that I made and um, how much better I could have done had I really understood how family law worked. And so that's why I became a certified divorce real estate expert. And I don't talk about this specific topic hardly at all because most of the time I'm presenting it to an attorney because we work that behind the scenes. I'm appointed by the court. But in a particular case, I was coaching a friend who was going through the process. I was conflicted out because I really couldn't be a neutral party through the transaction. And that's one of the requirements in being a divorce real estate expert is being able to navigate between two people. You can't just pick your friends. You can't pick your pickleball friend. First of all, they may not be a competent real estate agent. And second, they've got bias because they're one of your friends or they're too ingrained in the personal side of it.
So Darryl, let's
Yes.
talk about that for a second. And hi, I'm Kirsten.
Oh, by the way, welcome, Kirsten. Introductions are important, but I just jumped past that.
Yeah. Um, so this is a really important topic because a lot of times people think of divorce as separate from real estate, even though you're getting divorced and you have to sell that marital estate. You don't really think of that as 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 part of really the divorce. It's kind of like this separate entity, even though it will directly impact the resolution of that divorce. And so this is so critical to make sure that you've got an expert in divorce real estate. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Um, because there are so many nuances, and we're going to talk about those nuances, but it's paramount to have an expert divorce real estate specialist, and Darryl is one, I think the only one that's certified in this area, in this region maybe. And so it's critical to make sure that you reach out to a competent expert because this is truly navigating through like a labyrinth.
Let me back up and on a separate but parallel topic. This issue of real estate commissions, and that's been the topic of the news today about uncoupling or unbundling real estate commissions. I've been doing this a long time. I know why we were doing it the way we were doing it. It was a reason because it gave buyers representation. one of the things I'm excited about now with this new change, which has left everybody like spinning, trying to figure out what are the rules, like how are we actually doing it? Commissions haven't gone away. Commissions are extremely important to how a house is marketed. There are so many statistics that talk about when you pay less, you sell, it takes longer to sell, or you sell for significantly less. Your house is a product and you want it to be exposed to the most number of people possible. So these changes that have come down have not changed commissions necessarily. They've changed the way you think about choosing your realtor. And for
Right.
so many years, the top professionals in the business have been plagued by this problem of it's so easy to get your real estate license that people think it's just like a weekend hobby. And you watch something on TV and you think it's all about fixing your hair and showing up and eating coffee cake and donuts at the office, or walking around pretty houses and just opening doors. There's so much more intricacy to the
Right.
business than that. And so what we're talking about is choosing your real estate professional just like you choose anyone else.
Just like
And
a doctor, right? Your
just like that. It
yeah.
should be a lifetime relationship that you trust, but also based in competency. And when I speak about competency, it takes me back to a book I read, Stephen Covey, The Speed of Trust. And it talks about all of these different relationships, but some of them were really big world events that were based on trust, not just a contract or piece of paper. And I think those are important. I actually am such a huge proponent as a trustworthy individual. I say the way you're going to trust me is we're going to put this in writing so I can't forget. So no one's going to forget. And that's why you can trust me, because an untrustworthy person will break a contract even if it's in writing. Then you have to take them to court. Well, that's a loss of time and life. So you want to work with trustworthy people. There are two aspects that come out in a real estate transaction and in choosing a realtor that I think are so important to think about. And one is, we often have chosen realtors in the past. We're like, oh, I'll use so-and-so. I go back to my pickleball friend because I play pickleball with them. I like them. They're great. Well, that's because you have a relationship trust with them. But do you have a competency trust? And if I'm choosing a doctor, I am not going to choose my doctor based on pickleball. I'm going to choose my doctor based on successful operations or tenure in the business, how long they've been doing something, what their experience is in the particular area of expertise that I need, because there's so many different aspects to medical care. Same with your attorney. You wouldn't hire a patent attorney to take care of your divorce case or your bankruptcy necessarily. And real estate's the same way. What is the market knowledge of that individual? What is their team setup? And I don't mean just team like a bunch of people who work together in an office. Once I saw a picture with hire me and my team, and it was somebody and their dog. Well, that dog may make me feel good, but that's not going to bring a level of expertise to the picture unless you're selling a pet business. Yeah, so what I'm talking about here, as we get off in the weeds, is understanding what decision you're making and where you are looking for competency and trust, and actually breaking down how our brains process that and what makes us feel comfortable. Sometimes you want the real estate agent who is, and actually I shouldn't even say sometimes, you actually want the real estate agent who's bringing a slight bit of discomfort with the probing and the questions they're asking, because they are protecting you from the things that you don't even know you don't know. And when we choose something, you've got to remember that the goal is to get to the closing table, not to sign a listing agreement, not to put a sign in the yard, not even to have a contract with a buyer. All of that stuff has to happen, but you also have to get to the closing table. So when they're bringing up questions about how old's the roof, what are we going to do about the roof? I'm not going to wait for an inspector to come out. I'm going to call my buddy, my roofing guy, who I trust and who knows he's going to get a job. So he's not going to talk us into doing a roof. He's just going to give us an evaluation of what we might expect through the process, so we can be prepared when somebody else comes at us about the roof's not good, if they're going to do that. So we're prepared for that ahead of time. But I can't tell you how many appointments I go on that when I bring up the discussion about the roof and somebody builds a wall and says, "Oh, I've got insurance and my roofer says it's fine." Okay, great. But your roofer isn't evaluating, your insurance company isn't evaluating the process of getting through a sale. And guess what? That same insurance company that's insuring you right now will probably look for a way to get out of the policy and not write the same policy for the next person, because they've been insuring you. They've already received all that money. When it's time to sell the property, many times the same insurance company, the same insurance agent will not write a policy on that roof because they're going to reevaluate the risk. That's just one tiny example of this whole process. Making sure you've got trust in relationship and trust in competency, not just relationship. So anyway, back to this issue of divorce and picking a real estate professional who is competent in this area and trained. It takes me to this situation where we were consulting, and you know this well. You brought this situation to me. We go look at the house, and I said, "This house isn't going to make it. It's not going to pass. We're not going to be able to get this from the listing if we get agreement from the buyer and seller who are suing each other for a divorce. That's a legal process. Shows up in all the records. Can't hide it. OSCN.net. I used to call it my personal blog when I was getting a divorce. So just look it up. There it is for the world to see. So investors are going to see it. All the research can be done anytime. You have to get the agreement from the two parties getting a divorce. You have to get it on the market. You have to get the price settled. You have to find a buyer who's willing to pay that. You have to get all of the terms of the contract agreed by the two parties who are suing each other getting a divorce. Then you have to make it past the inspection process.
So let's stop. Yeah, let's stop and let's talk about this, because this should have been a really simple, straightforward divorce. And the market was still hot when they started that process. And the house was in a desirable neighborhood. The particular neighborhood wasn't that desirable.
Very desirable. Yeah.
Very desirable neighborhood, right? But there were some real problems with this house. There were structural issues. There were roots growing around plumbing. There was a massive tree that was falling, huge, like 4 feet in circumference. I mean,
you remember we walked up to the front door and I said, "There's a structural problem here."
Exactly. And they really didn't take the best care of the house. So like the molding was some molding pieces, but that stuff that was cosmetic. That could have been, rectified pretty quickly. But here's where the problem was. And that is that one party in the transaction was being heavily influenced by their parents, and they felt like the house was worth way more based on what Zillow had estimated 6 months ago, which that was really where we were at the height of the market, than it was today, or when we were going through this process. So that right there, and that's why I want to talk about that for a second, because that's something you can't plan for. What Darryl mentioned earlier, you can plan for that. There are checklists that take us through a process. But what you don't realize in these divorces is it's emotional, right? And you get greed that gets involved. You get other people and other influences. You get attorneys that that just want to just rack up this enormous bill to go back and forth. Then you get a real estate agent who doesn't know what they're doing and won't listen to reason.
All of these were an issue. One of the most frustrating, it was actually kind of made me angry, was that another real estate agent, and I won't call them a professional because I think it was very unprofessional what they did to this person, got in their ear and started telling them all the things that they were going to be able to do, that they were going to be able to do
for more than what was left on the mortgage, right?
If that agent is not writing the check to buy the house, then all they're doing is giving you an opinion. Well, the value of that opinion is only as good as their experience and their expertise in this particular area.
What the
Did
market
that,
will bear.
how many times did that agent sell the house? I mean, sell it, get it under contract, not
Oh,
close.
so I mean, but even more than that, let's talk about the ramifications of this process. Okay, so going back, we have now this one party that decides that we want an inflated value. They've got a real estate agent. They've got a that's also the partner with the attorney. So this isn't court appointed.
Ah,
This is a referral, and they collude and decide that we're going to put the house on the market. Well, the power had already been shut off. All the utilities have been shut off. So then the other party had to turn everything back on. So now thousands and thousands of dollars have gone into this house that's sitting there, and it goes on the market. They get a price that is still below, like $4,000 below what the mortgage is, but it can't pass inspection, which is what started this whole process before, right? When you went out there, we put together a value for this home and we said it's not going to sell. There's no way it's going to sell. And and so
well, and
our
here's the
party,
key. Here's the key. With a lot of conventional sales, the condition of a property improves over time. You have a showing, somebody says, "Oh, I don't like this or that." A home seller with good feedback may take that and then fix whatever the problem is. So it's slowly getting a little better. And in a divorce case, it almost never gets better. There, you got
well,
two
you
warring
fixed,
parties,
right?
and the realtor has to plan for that, has to have a plan in place for that.
Exactly. And so ultimately, what ended up happening to this home is they couldn't sell it because it couldn't pass inspection, which is what we had, and we had sent documents over to support our client, the value and everything, just to kind of avoid all this extra money. And so at the end of the day, $10,000 was spent in legal fees and trying to work with this home to end up in a situation where it goes to foreclosure.
Hmm.
So, how could this have been avoided? And this is really where we get back to why it's so important to select a real estate professional that knows the market, that understands the nuances of mediation, can address those things, and will stay objective, because I think that's really what happened here is we had an attorney, we had a real estate agent that became very emotionally compromised. Literally they were going into the house, they were taking documents, it's all on camera. I mean, out of the house, it was crazy, just
Yeah,
crazy.
that's the big sin. Um, as a real estate professional, it takes training for this. I go to an annual conference to refresh, and we do um, weekly meetings. It's kind of like group therapy. How do we work through these situations and
Right.
not take any side, because our job is to salvage the equity of the property to
For
get the
both
most
parties.
for both parties. One may need it for alimony or for child support. The other
Yeah.
may need it for their future purpose or housing, for rent, for a purchase of a home. This can make or break. Your income is going to be cut in most cases in half, because you're taking one wealthy household and you're creating two poor households
That's
essentially.
right. Yeah, and
And
it's
and
so.
you've got to keep that equity. And what will happen is people are going to get in your ear, and they're going to tell you, "Oh, I'd do this, and I'd kick him out, and I would make her do that," and all of these things. And they love to have their opinion, but guess what? That's not their life, and they're not living it.
And you have
You
to work
are
with facts,
you're
right?
their little puppet,
Yeah,
and
facts and data. And
there
that's
you
what
go.
that's what we do, is when we're working with our clients that are going through this very troubling and challenging time. There are families involved. It's staying objective and keeping a Christian view, right? Because we want it to be a win-win for the family.
A judge told me once, in one of my training classes, they said, "Listen, in criminal court, I would see the worst of society on their best behavior. In family court, divorce court, I see the best of society on their worst behavior.
Yeah.
And our job as realtors is to help navigate through that and protect people from this very destructive process so that they have as much as they can to get to the other side. And that involves a level of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity to get through it and remove the drama from the process of selling the house so that people can think clearly and make the decisions that are best for them. Because once you finish this process, there's a whole new world that opens up.
Yeah.
And we want you to be in the best position for recovery after that. And that doesn't really sound like real estate discussion, but when you start talking or analyzing real estate as like the nest, the home, the core, the very
The
essence of
moral
the
duty.
routine that you have,
Yeah.
it's that important.
Yeah. There's a moral aspect to this. There is a moral responsibility, right? There's stewardship. It's incredibly important to work with someone that genuinely has the entire household's best interest at heart. Regardless of what's going on, you have to stay neutral.
So whatever happened, the end result here, how long did it take for this
A
house from the
year
time we
and
first
a
talked?
half, a year and a half just to get to foreclosure. And it could have been resolved. This could have been resolved in 7 days. It was that fast. There are no children, nothing, no marital assets other than this house. I mean, but because of this attorney and this real estate professional just pouring, fuel on the
We've got to stop.
fire.
You cannot say professional after
Oh,
I've seen this.
yeah.
You can't say real estate professional anymore. It's just a real estate agent. Just because you have a license, I swear that does not make you a
For
professional.
sure.
And I'm harping on this so much because your judgment, as you know, we have all this BS out in the social media. Stop being judgy. You're so judgy. Look, there's a point when not judging becomes bad judgment.
Well, a critical
So
assessment, right? It's all about facts and data. At the end of the day, it's not emotional. It's what happened, and it's real simple, right? And in this situation, and I was thinking about, and here's in defense of these two people, they genuinely believed they were doing their client a favor. They were trying to help their client, but they weren't looking at it objectively because they weren't looking on the other side of that family and what it was doing and how destructive it was to the person who actually didn't even file for the divorce, right?
yeah,
Or
it was destructive to both.
oh,
There
terrible.
wasn't uh,
Credit ruined.
the
It's
family wealth.
disastrous. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a disaster. So anyway, not a very happy topic, but it just goes to illustrate, that it's so important to get someone who will care about the entire process, and take care of the family.
Well, I'll turn this into a commercial. Wherever you are listening, in the United States, there's a designation for this. It's called the CDRE, Certified Divorce Real Estate Expert. Um, I've had lots of designations over the years, and many of them, to be quite honest with you, you take a little weekend class. It's good information, really valuable information, but take a weekend class and just pay your dues. And there's no real test for maintaining that designation and keeping up on your skills and truly advancing professionally. And this, I am so proud of the CDRE organization and designation that they investigate. They look to see what kind of reputation this individual has. Are they in it for the right reason? You just want to get in it so you can get more business and more leads? No, we're not interested. You're not going to be part of this group. This is about protecting families, protecting the wealth that people have built over time, uh, protecting people emotionally through the process, physically through restraining orders, the lives of these children that is traumatically affected with a process that can go awry. And so we want to keep that from happening so that they don't have experiences in their life that literally scar them forever. That's what the CDRE is about, and to understand how this relates to family law, so that we can help you keep your attorney bills down. We can make it easier for the attorney to do their job by giving them the information they need, because we understand more about how family law works. So this is huge. If you find yourself headed towards that, you need to tell your attorney that you want a CDRE on the job. Don't call your friend realtor. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to talk to you. I may have one phone conversation with you ahead of time, but I'm not going to continue conversation until the attorneys are involved and both attorneys have put us on a list and an agreement, so that we're not showing bias. We're not going to go have coffee and talk about a bunch of stuff before we get involved in it, because we want to make sure we're neutral through the process. That is for your benefit. Even though you think, oh, I want somebody who's on my side. No, you don't. You want someone who is protecting your equity, and that is on your side. It's just not going to feel all warm and fuzzy and kumbaya in the beginning, because there's a bigger picture to the process. Listen, before we go any further, I've got to thank my sponsors who helped put the Baskin report out. We have 6,000 publications that go out on a regular basis. If you want to know more about that, go to darrylbaskin.com, sign up for it so we can get you on the list. Not just home types of information with recipes, but actually what's happening in the marketplace. What's a strategy for you, and how do you stay on top of that for your wealth and your long-term real estate portfolio? Integrity Title, Window World of Tulsa, Goodman Roofing and Goodman Construction, and First United Bank Mortgage. Also Eden's Drilling. They're the guys that put in piers to keep your house from cracking all over the place. So thank you guys for always standing with us. Over 30 years in the business with Baskin Real Estate Specialists, and we have kept the same partners and sponsors for so many years, very consistently with that. And we appreciate the people who support us, keep this information out there. Kirsten, I didn't introduce you in the beginning because I was like, everybody knows Kirsten. Kirsten, my COO and business partner and business coach. You can find her book. You've rebranded it. And
so the second edition, they're publishing the audiobook right now, so it'll be on Audible shortly, but it's the second edition is available on Amazon and virtually every ebook distribution outlet.
And the name?
The On Purpose Growth Plan, Architecting a High Performance Life, second edition.
All right. Well, Kirsten Ulrich, thank you very much. You've been watching or listening to The Future of Real Estate. I'm Darryl Baskin with the Baskin Real Estate Specialists at eXp Realty, and it's always a pleasure. We will see you on the next episode.